Okay, well, we can definitely talk about that.
Okay.
What do we need for a quorum? Steph, Rod? Hi,
Oh.
Vaune.
Good morning.
Just a second. I think it's 5.
Hey, it's Natasha here, but unfortunately I have to leave at 10.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
We're glad to have you here. We may need you for the quorum, at least for the first part of the meeting here.
Yeah, we need 6. And we have
So we've got
1,
Kirsten.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We have 6.
Okay, and who's still to join?
Well, I don't know if we're going to see Wolfgang. Were you going to follow up on that, Allison?
No, I wasn't.
No.
How about Michael?
And Michael, yeah.
And Jody.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure Jody wants to be here.
So
Yeah.
Jody probably will sign in. So I'm just worried about losing quorum when Natasha leaves.
So Marcus may join us when the
Oh, and Marcus, yeah.
switch off. Maybe I'll just pop him a note to that effect, actually.
There's Wendy.
Rod?
Morning.
Good morning.
Is Rod there? No, he's not.
Yeah, I'm here.
There you
I'm
are.
here, Ed. I'm just not on video at this point.
Okay. Before we begin, I'd like to introduce Jami.
Yeah,
Maybe you
absolutely.
wait and do that as part of the official part of the meeting so the public meets her.
Okay.
But I just,
Well, this isn't official yet.
Oh, okay. Oh,
we have to be careful, Allison.
okay. I just assumed.
This is
because
all
you're
illegit
here,
for the moment.
Well, no, she can be recognized as a member of the public attending the meeting.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And I think it'll be appropriate, you know, in our 5 minutes at the beginning of the meeting for public address that Jami just introduces herself. So, or you introduce her. So
That's a good way to do it.
Yeah.
And I was also thinking we have a 2 to 3 minute update on the hearth. And I usually do that, but you probably are in a better position to do it too. Just what's been going on in the last 3. Okay, I'll do it.
Okay, Jody's here.
great. Hi, Jody. Welcome.
Okay, let's get going.
Yeah, let's get going. Steph, unfortunately, I'm just coming back from a job site here, so I don't have the agenda in front of me yet. But I know that that we have at the opening, you know, we have our public comments. So let's say hi to Jami, and then
Well, can you just adopt the agenda and the minutes?
Yeah. Okay.
I move adoption of the agenda.
Okay. Any second for that?
Second it.
Okay, and I guess either raise your real physical hand or say aye, and I'll say aye.
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 Okay, and then our minutes. Do we have anything to still add to the minutes, or can we adopt them as they are? Or sorry, the agenda rather.
No, the minutes.
Or the minutes. Yes, minutes from past meeting. Okay, yeah, that's what we need.
I'd like to comment. Very good job, Steph. That was a very good summation of a somewhat complex meeting. So thank you.
So that means you're moving adoption? And I'll second it.
Yes. Okay.
Okay, then all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, I think that was 3 ayes that I heard. Do we have other
Aye.
hands? Yep. Yep. Okay. So all in favor, I think. Good. Okay. Well, then let's carry on with the meeting. Steph, do you want to?
Okay, now we have public comments. And there's Jami Scheffer as our esteemed member of the public who's coming to talk to us.
Hi, good morning, everyone.
Hi, Jami.
Morning, Jami. Welcome. And just for the sake of everyone else, as Steph was pointing out at the beginning of the meeting, we understand that you have applied to become a member of the Economic Development Committee, which thank you for applying for that. And the procedure is it would go to council, your application, which I believe it hasn't yet, and then council would decide on all new membership for the committee. But we're really happy to have you here to introduce yourself this morning.
Thanks. Thank you. Well, it's almost 3 months that I've been on the island. Wow, it's a beautiful place. Thank you. We had a really great ceremony yesterday for National Indigenous Day, where we blessed or had the sign, the First Nations sign for Bowen Island celebration. It was really, really wonderful. It was an honor to be part of it. It was a great celebration, and I think it's opening up better relationships between First Nations and us here on Bowen Island. So it was a great event, and soon there will be a video out that everyone can watch virtually how the ceremony went. So yeah, I'm here.
Sorry, Jamie, what did you bless yesterday?
Sorry?
What was blessed?
The sign,
Sign. Thank you.
I can't,
Squamish Nation language sign for Bowen Island.
Thank you.
thank you. Thanks. Yeah, that sign.
Just for the public, maybe we should note that since this is being recorded and videoed, that Jami is the new Executive Director for the Hearth, AKA the Bowen Island Arts Council.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And as for her appointment, potential appointment to the CEDC, the ED of the Hearth, previously BIAC has always been a member of the CEDC. In fact, Jacqueline was vice chair for, I believe, 3 or 4 years. So there's a precedent for this.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Thank you.
Do we want to talk about action items next? Do you want me to review them, Rod? Okay, I'm going to review the action items. Number 1, circulate electronic version of the report that identifies section of the official.
Okay, I'll do it.
Okay,
I just have to
ongoing.
come and sit down with you. You have to go back into old files that I can't go into.
Okay, sure, we can do that. Okay, so Councillor Morse and staff. Number 2, presentation for the digital meetup on the Buy Local campaign complete. Number 3, follow up with Tom McComb from Metro Vancouver Parks regarding installing a pit toilet at the trailhead by Seaside Cottage. That is complete. That ended up being a collaborative project. Metro Vancouver and Bowen Island Municipality are cost sharing, operation sharing the new bathroom at the trailhead by the hospital. Number 4, written documentation that Sunshine Coast Community Future Services Bowen Island, that has been provided. It's also on our website. It's on their website. Number 5, Wendy sent an invitation to the Innovation Island webinar to Rod Marsh. That's either complete or moot. Done. You're muted. Can't hear you. Can't hear her. Okay.
You have to unmute yourself.
If you can't unmute, you could maybe do chat, use the chat function. Sometimes I know my speaker doesn't work for some strange
Sorry,
reason.
hi, can you hear me?
There we go.
I can't hear you guys now. Oh, sorry, can you hear me now? Okay, perfect, great. So yeah, with regards to the DR webinar, so I had a chat with the DR, I guess, contact there, Graham, and he was really kind in offering to Bowen Island businesses the opportunity to apply to the DR program. So this is a program that it's called DR, stands for Digital Economy Response Program. And it basically helps businesses that wants to be in digital online presence, including having online payment supports. So it was a program that was established for being funded by ICE-T. Bowen Island, unfortunately, was not part of the ICE-T boundary. So Bowen Island businesses technically were not eligible to apply. But in speaking to Graham, he has offered to extend the program supports and assistance to Bowen Island's businesses, and that was conveyed to Rod, so Rod's aware of that, and yeah, so I think Steph, you were aware of that as well.
I did not promote that very widely, though. Maybe I can find that link. Is it still happening?
I believe it is. So the only one maybe caveat was that, based on my understanding and speaking to Rod, the number of, I guess, businesses that indicated interest to this program, I think, was less than 5. So knowing that, Innovation Island said, sure, you know what, let them just sign up to program, state that they're from Bowen Island, and Graham was going to ensure that they would be provided services. If the numbers, substantially increase through further promotion, then I think we'll need to kind of work out a better solution that's kind of more sustainable. So that's something, yeah.
Yeah, Steph, I think we knew that, and we kind of decided not to really put it out there in a big way. Just, for Rod and I as navigators, we're going to let people know if they need that kind of thing. And
Right, okay.
yeah.
I'll just leave it then. Okay, that's all I have. We've got a couple of future ongoing actions, but we're not going to push those too hard right now, I don't think. Yeah. Okay, ready to move on, Rod. I'm seeing update from the province. Wendy and Stephanie.
Hi, I have a new muted myself. So hi everyone. I guess as you'll see, we have Stephanie Cepeda on the line. So Stephanie is my colleague from the Ministry of Jobs, Economic Development and Competitiveness, and she's based in Victoria. And so it's great that Stephanie's able to join us today. Stephanie has attended some of the virtual business meetups that Bowen has been hosting weekly. And I thought it'd be great for Stephanie to kind of have an understanding and the sense of what Bowen's going through, what's kind of on the ground in terms of, what's been happening with COVID. And maybe I'll just turn it to Stephanie now to kind of give an introduction and any other information that she can share from her ministry. Sorry.
Sure. So you've probably seen my face on some of the business meetup calls, which I've really enjoyed attending, by the way. So I work with regional programs and engagement out of Ministry of Jobs, Economic Development and Competitiveness. Our group during COVID has been trying to connect with as many economic recovery groups as possible. Our primary goal on that one has really just been to hear the concerns of communities, hear what kind of issues that they're facing, and make sure that any kind of pressing concerns or emerging issues are going up to our executive and making sure that they're known so that we can develop programs and policies to respond to them. And then also to be able to share back information when needed. Your group has been pretty well prepared and equipped on that front. I haven't, you guys have got it all quite handled, so haven't really had too much information sharing in that area. There were a few things that I wanted to share, and then there were a few questions that were posed to me in an email prior to that, so prior to this meeting. The first update that I wanted to share is that the province is looking for input on economic recovery right now. So the province has released an economic recovery ideas survey. They have kind of a paper that's been released about some of the values that are guiding the province as they develop an economic recovery response. And so I'd invite you to take a little read through that, and I can put a link in the chat after this. Then there's a few ways that you can share your ideas for economic recovery. There's a survey that you can take. You can respond to the paper directly with a written submission. And then there's also a bunch of virtual town halls that are coming out. This is something that the province is doing in addition to the Economic Recovery Task Force that has the Premier and a number of kind of key business stakeholder organizations like BCBCA, Vancouver Board of Trade, and others. So I'd invite you to take a look at that. The other little tidbit I wanted to note, just to build on Wendy's comment about the DUR 3 program, is that there will be another sort of similar program launched called the Digital Marketing Bootcamp program through, we've run a pilot version before through Alacrity. There's probably going to be another version coming out. It might be connected with Innovation Island as well this time. So that's I think it's a 6 or 12-week program, 6 or 12, that anyone can sign up to if they want to learn some of those digital marketing skills, how to move their business online, how to promote their business online. So that's another tool and resource. Submissions for the latest round of that program are not yet open, but I'll leave a link in the chat so you can keep an eye on that for when it does become open. The question that I was asked in the email prior to the meeting, there were two. One was to give a little reflection on the business meetups, which I've been really looking forward to doing because I really love attending those meetup groups. I do attend a bunch of different regional groups in the island and the Lower Mainland, and you guys have built a lovely community connection on those calls, and particularly love the harvest gathering space that you make for everybody to contribute and hear from everybody. I think that's a really valuable piece, just in comparison to some of the other ways that I've seen calls approach. So my kudos to you. I think it's amazing that you've built that kind of community and had that regular attendance this whole time. And then there was some question on what the province's involvement is going to look like moving forward. For the moment, I plan to kind of continue to attend the business calls and just hear what's going on. I'm always open to having a chat if there's particular concerns that you want to bring forward or you want the ministry to know about. We can bring those forward. But really, I also wanted to put the question back to your group to see what, how do you see the ministry's involvement continuing? Is there anything in particular that you're looking for or a way that we could support better? We're always interested to hear what it is that you need, and then we can take that forward and see how we can best respond. So I rambled on a bit. I'm just going to leave that there, and I'll leave those few links in the chat. And if you have any ideas for what you'd like my involvement to look like moving forward, I'd be happy to hear that.
Thanks so much, Stephanie. It's great to hear from you, and it has been nice to see that you've been able to attend our digital meetups and some of our other meetings over, and appreciate the feedback. And I'll certainly pass on to Chris Corrigan, who is a previous chair of this committee and who's been leading those meetings because he's the one who's designed that format and really holds that space so well. And we look forward to, actually, Chris has agreed to host more meetings now on a monthly basis for the business community. And we're not sure, of course, what the next priority will be in the middle of July, because things seem to be changing, and in August and September and so on. So we look forward to carrying on and understanding how our businesses are faring in the opening up stages as well. As you can hear, I've got connected here, everyone. I haven't, so next on our agenda though, Steph, can you bring that up for us?
Hang on,
unless
Rod,
anyone else, sorry, if anyone else has any questions for Stephanie at this point.
Well, I've got a question for Wendy.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
And I'm not sure whether you've answered it already or not, and I apologize because I was trying to look it up. There was a grant announcement on June 19th.
Yes.
And were those any connection to when they killed the rural dividend
Yeah.
program.
So
Those
just
all the applications that had gone in for that were looked at as part of that?
You are correct. So that announcement was a provincial announcement. I believe it's the community year-end community grants funding announcement, and those were basically based from the RDP applications from last summer. And when the RDP program was suspended in the fall, everything was basically taken, off from further consideration. And then, I guess in the early part of the year, there was further discussions, and a number of communities then had an opportunity to have their applications be reconsidered, and the successful applications were posted on that announcement. And those successful applications were primarily based on the potential for job creation, as well as the ability to kind of strengthen local economic development. So that's where that funding announcement was made, and so that's different, I believe, from the other one. I think you were asking about is that the triple RF, the regional relief, or the
province provides grants to support people rural economies, and this was 14 million in grants for over 150 projects.
Correct. Yes. So I think I'm trying to see whether. Oh, yeah. I think you were asking about. I'm trying to look at your questions here. Are they from the program Rural Relief Program? So I'm not sure, but if Rural Relief Program, if I think I understand where you're coming from, there is a federal program.
I didn't think I asked if it was Rural Relief.
Oh, okay, you did. Perfect. Okay, so that's not. Let's not get confused with the federal program.
I was wondering if those grants, where that program came from, and if the applications that were considered were the ones that had been deferred out of the
RDP program.
When they killed the RDP program. So
you got it exactly.
Okay.
That's where it came from.
That leads me to my second question. We had 2 applications in from Bowen into that when the rural dividend program was axed. One was from the housing spurt, and one was from Tourism Bowen Island. So they didn't get an opportunity to reapply or get thrown.
So basically, maybe what I did, I guess, in talking to my colleagues who manages that RDP program, I believe those applications were looked at, but perhaps they were not successful, simply because based on the hundreds of applications that came in, these programs that were successful had a greater potential for job creation purposes, for example, or for strengthening the local economy. So my understanding was, yes, you are correct. I believe in the year-end funding, Bowen, there were 3 applications for Bowen. You were right. Tourism, Bowen Island, and 2 from not-for-profits organization. And so they were not successful.
Okay. All righty. Thank you.
No worries. Maybe what I'll just add is that just alluding to what Stephanie had mentioned about that BC Recovery Survey, take a look at the survey and the opportunity to kind of address some of the needs from your community. And I know that RDP, that Bowen was successful in an Bowen Island municipality was successful in an RDP application previously, and that Bowen Island Community Economic Development Committee actually successfully advocated for and lobbied for the inclusion of Bowen Island as part of the RDP program. So I think all those are crucial information to kind of help you guys further in addressing those needs, and just kind of put that in the survey. The other thing I would also add is just touching on the digital side of things. It's great that Stephanie mentioned about this potentially new program that's yet to be announced with Alacrity. So this will definitely give us a broader range and opportunity for Bowen Island businesses to participate in. And if you're not already aware, there is a small business online marketplace as well. So businesses that have already an online presence, you can have your product or your services be available on the small business online marketplace site. So that's something to think about. And my last item, just as an update, is the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing is potentially having their next round of the Invest in Canada Infrastructure Program. That's the bilateral funding program between the feds and BC. We're hearing that they could be announced relatively soon. Just as a reminder, Bowen was successful again in the community center funding application, I believe, from this particular program. And also congratulations on recruiting Liam Edwards as Bowen's new CAO. And Liam, just so you know, Liam, and you probably know that too, Liam was the ED or the Executive Director in MA that actually ran the Invest in Canada Infrastructure Program. So I think you know, a lot of good connections there. So.
Thanks, Wendy. Yeah, we certainly, I just had the opportunity to meet Liam recently myself, and it was a pleasure talking to him. I think that the municipality's made a great hire, so we're looking forward to working with him. Yeah. Steph, can you tell us what's next on the agenda here?
Council update, probably. Am I up next, Steph? You're muted,
okay.
Stephanie.
Yes, there's actually, I'm just getting it up here now. Can everyone hear me? Because I don't hear Steph.
She's muted.
Sorry, I did have Councillor Kaile, Morse, and Nicholson do
Okay. All right.
excerpts from the meetings, but looks like Councillor Morse is going to run the whole show.
Oh, good. Okay. So you've got a link to the very excellent report that Maureen gave on the activities of the committee over the last couple of months, and council was most impressed. And council highlights. And then on point B, if you look at the information item and the actual resolutions that were passed, there was a timing issue. We had our last meeting on April 27th, and on April 27th council meeting that evening was when they were discussing giving the second reading and going for public hearing for the short-term rentals package. And the so we told everybody and read out the resolution to cut back on the, you know, to reconsider the 120 days and to slow the process down. As you know, that didn't happen. And the public hearing is tonight for the short-term rental bylaws. So at the the May 25th the May 25th meeting, or is that the council meeting I'm looking at? No, the June, what date was the last council meeting, Steph?
The 8th?
Yeah, so June the 8th meeting was the meeting where our minutes and our formal resolutions were actually presented. So that's why the first resolution is just to receive the recommendations from council, because at that point, second reading had happened, the public hearing was scheduled, so nothing could change, and the bylaw itself wasn't on the table that night for discussion. So that's why the resolution is different, just to receive it. The second resolution went ahead as proposed to request staff to work, you know, fast track things where people were applying for applications and so forth. So I think, unless anybody's got any questions, that's it.
I think Jody does, but I do too.
Okay.
Hi, Allison. Thanks. I actually watched the meeting, the council meeting where Emma gave the presentation after we met the last, and our committee recommendation was not read, and it was not presented at that time because I was watching for it and I was really disappointed.
Because I remember Maureen. Yeah, we did. But no, it wouldn't have been during Emma's presentation. It would have been during the council discussion. Because I remember Maureen explaining why she voted no.
Okay, well, I'd have to go back, but I remember that it wasn't formally presented or whatever, and I was quite disappointed.
Oh,
I was
no, it wasn't
disappointed.
formally presented because at that point we'd had the meeting that afternoon. We didn't have a formal motion to present because we didn't have minutes. We told them what the motion was, that the committee was supporting slowing down and leaving out the 120 days. But when I'm not sure what you mean by formally
Can I
presented.
interject? Sorry, to support Jody's point. I believe another part of the recommendation was that council directs staff to provide in writing data regarding alternative accommodations in the comparator communities. So there had been discussion about
Yeah, so that part didn't get presented, no.
And then that went forward again for council 2 weeks ago. And then council
Oh, okay.
didn't address it again. So I'm just wondering, were you and Michael and Maureen a part of it?
Well, there was no way, there was nothing to, when our minutes were on the agenda, the council received information. I think, I'll have to go back, but at this point, it's going forward for a public hearing.
Right.
And that resolution was passed at the May 25th meeting.
Alison, I thought you and Michael were going to also put forward, based on, our discussion in our last meeting, a recommendation that the whole thing be put on hold.
We did. It was a non-starter.
Yeah, you can recommend, but council's not necessarily going to do it.
They don't have to do it.
Yeah.
Same with 120 days. It was very clear from the discussion and everything else. And I think I tried to move a motion that the 120 days didn't get seconded, so it won't show up in a minute.
Wow.
Yeah, no.
Okay.
Yeah, it was very, very clear from the discussion that.
Well, and to Jody's point, I didn't get to watch that whole meeting, but if she didn't feel like Emma presented, what are, really reflected what we had discussed, maybe that, is part of it. Like. Yeah.
And I tried, and I think Michael did too, and to reflect that, the 120 and things need to slow down, but there really wasn't any appetite to slow down or to remove the 120.
And then actually, I'm just looking at the agenda from June 8th, and it's item 9.3, and it does say it's that council directs staff to include information about alternative accommodation.
Yeah, it's in there.
That was a recommendation for council to discuss and resolve on, but they rejected that. Okay.
Well, they didn't reject it. We can add.
Item, it was definitely.
The public hearing had already been scheduled. It didn't slow anything down.
Alison, are you going to be on that public thing tonight?
Well, the public hearing is a process. There will be no decisions made. It'll be to receive people's comments. So if people want things changed, I think each of you will have to individually speak up at the public hearing. And
well, I went to the last open house. I don't know.
Open houses are different from public hearings. Public hearings is the official report to council from the individuals who think that the way the act reads, it says their property will be impacted, but it doesn't. General members of the public also comment in public hearings about whether they like the bylaw, whether they want it changed, what the impacts are, positive or negative. And then council receives all that information, and there'll be a further decision 2 weeks from that, probably, on going forward with third reading or having changes made based on what's said at the public hearing.
Okay.
But I wouldn't count on just because you spoke at the information session. Necessarily, it's good to speak out of the public hearing.
All right.
Right, and I guess at public hearings, there are also letters are received by council for public hearings as well.
There's been letters coming in over the weekend.
Yeah.
And then they'll all be part of the public record. So
is there a deadline for written submissions or letters for this public hearing?
Be in no later than the end of the public hearing. So if I would, for safety purposes, make sure it got there by 4 o'clock. And if somebody's going to speak, it's probably good to provide a written report as well, because your comments will get very briefly recorded in the public hearing document. So if you're against a specific thing, you have to be very succinct and say that.
Right. Okay. Jody, did you have another comment then?
Yeah, Allison, was it ever presented, because this is my new angle now, that I would like to see the bylaw as a compromise bylaw. Since we met, Michael had mentioned Nelson. And if you actually look to Nelson, I really like what they've got. They've got 3 options to get a license for a short-term rental. One is a year-round license. One is a 4-month license with 4 periods of 31 consecutive days. I guess that's 4 months. And then a 31-day license. And Nelson is a community that has hotels. You know, it's hard for Bowen because we're different. We're different than any of the other communities, but it's good to look at them and to see how they've set it up. And for a lot of the people doing short-term rental on Bowen, the 120 days is probably appropriate. So for a good bulk, but there are some people that are operating, and they're important to this economy. They're important to supporting year-round visitation for creating a sustainable economy. They not only are supporting restaurants and shops, they're hiring people to work on their houses. They're hiring gardeners. They're hiring people that clean. So they're stimulating a lot of jobs within on our island, in our economy, that go beyond the shops and restaurants. So my question to you, because I haven't followed this process as closely as I should have, was it ever presented to council to consider different types of licenses that would monitor and the short-term rental? Was there ever a commercial license option presented? Was any of this kind of stuff ever presented, is my question.
Yes, the commercial license and the longer 1-year license was presented. The answer has always been those people can apply for a rezoning so they can have a permanent year-round license and become what's called commercial guest accommodation.
Yeah, but we know that to apply for that takes a lot of time, and it's also really expensive, right?
Yeah, and some islands have done the temporary use permit process as well. Some communities. So those have been suggested.
Okay, so they were presented. Okay.
Yeah, so it's, but those are good comments you made, and so if people can make those kind of comments tonight, then I think.
Yeah, so that seems like tonight is when it gets more on record. So Jody.
That's right.
What time does it start?
The public hearing is at 4 o'clock. Steph, can you send around the public hearing notice to everybody?
Oh, I'm sure I can find it.
It's on the webpage. It's not the easiest thing in the world to find. Oh, it is now because it's on the calendar, so it's on the homepage.
Okay, so as far as discussion in this meeting then, maybe if Vaune, I don't know if you're going to connect with Jody afterwards, but it sounds like whatever questions you'd like to bring up this evening would be good to have in writing as well as a submission.
Yeah,
so
well, that's the thing, because the in writing is something that people can read afterwards and go over in preparation for the meeting where the third reading.
Well, I'll try and do that, because actually I can't make the 4. I already have other plans, so.
Yeah, well then, and then a written submission would be good.
Yeah.
Just coming from us personally, though, you're saying?
Well, I don't know if Tourism Bowen is. I mean, maybe it's
already put in a submission.
they put in a submission. Okay, so
Yeah.
maybe
Yeah.
if you have an addition to Tourism Bowen's submission, maybe you two could review that and make those comments.
Well, yeah, like are we supposed to be replying as part of the committee or just
no,
individual?
the committee, at this point, the committee's accepted the referral and we provided our recommendations.
Okay,
And
so I'm just
our minutes
as an
and
individual.
But this is as individuals. Yes.
And I guess from our committee then, Vaune, you said you're not able to attend. I suppose, Jody, if you attended, you could, again, as Allison has suggested, reflect on what we as a committee had recommended.
Rod,
does that work?
This isn't for the committee referral. The committee referrals happen. The process now is for the individual citizens.
Right. But I'm just saying, Jody, if Jody's going to attend, she might like to just take our submission, our recommendations that we sent to council, and reflect on them as her, as an individual.
Yeah, no, if she supports those recommendations, then there's no harm in an individual, taking any of the committee's referral reports and.
I would be happy to do that myself as an individual too, but again, I'm not going to be able to attend the meeting tonight either. So, but maybe I could do a small summary myself personally, and I might use our committee recommendations as a starting point.
Well, I think people, like Allison is saying, can personally just write a quick letter and have it on record.
Yes.
I would like to see the bylaw a bit more fleshed out. Like somebody yesterday on Facebook pointed out environmental concerns and stuff, and I'm totally on board with that, about maybe there should be limits on how many we have, and maybe they limit it in certain areas. I mean, I would like to see a much more, I think Michael used the term nuanced bylaw, instead of this one size fits all, and all of, it could be better, improved.
Okay, well, we'll look forward to your comments at the meeting tonight, and I think as far as this meeting goes, we should probably leave our discussion there for now. And we've got a couple other reports coming up. I guess the next thing would be
staff.
The staff report,
Okay. So just 2 items I flagged to report on, was just an update from the Emergency Operations Center. As you may know, that the EOC has been scaled quite down. The emergency program coordinator has taken on about 4 roles now. She's the chief of operations, the liaison, other things. I'm sitting on that group just as a link to the business community, just to keep them apprised of, we're kind of in recovery phase now. We are advanced planning for a second wave of the pandemic, but as far as the first wave is concerned, we've got more of a recovery lens, and that's primarily economic. So I'm not an economist, as you all know, but I'm just providing information from all of your amazing activities and keeping them up to date. So continue. They're appreciating that, and continue to keep me apprised of your great work. And does anyone have any questions about that? The EOC? Nope. Okay.
Well, I really certainly appreciate all your effort, Steph, both in the online meetups and I would say extra effort on behalf of the business community and your staff position here during the time. So I do think that the one thing is clear is that we're not done recovery. We're not even really started it yet. So there will be lots to come, and there'll be a lot of, I think, personal businesses or businesses that are going to be looking for assistance or guidance or support in lots of different ways over the next few months and even the next year.
Well, the municipality is aware of that, and the term economic recovery is at the very, very top. So you guys have done a great job of creating space for that. So
yeah, and some of those things that are visible, I noticed that they're expanding the outdoor area at the pub right now, which is great to see. And I understand that Kelly Kono's booked outdoor public space at Athletic Park for her activities. And, so that's terrific the way the municipality has been responding, and staff has been responding to businesses' requests as they've been trying to reimagine their businesses.
So there's a document that our communications coordinator is working on right now. It's a very simple info sheet saying what we can do, what we can't do. So this is what we can do to support businesses and what we will do, and this is what we really can't do. So if you guys have any kind of input on that, maybe requests you've heard that are outlandish, or requests that you've heard that are reasonable, please let me know, because I've been asked to provide feedback on it. I'll make a note to send it to you as well.
I think this is an interesting, not issue, but there's always been this tension between the municipality, from legally, right, cannot do anything to directly support a business. And yet
It's legal, yeah, it's legal.
Right.
Yeah.
And yet what? Changing some bylaws and helping, restaurants get a blanket liquor license for so restaurants can expand is definitely helping businesses.
Yeah.
It's really interesting. We want it. Obviously, municipality wants to support businesses. That's why we have this committee. That's why we do what we do. The interesting tension there, because every time you ask for something new that hasn't been done before, it's like, well, we're not really supposed to, and yet we can,
So that's what this document will hopefully speak to.
Yeah.
We're clear about this, so people don't.
Yeah.
And there's also a pandemic response as well.
You may not be able to totally define what you can and cannot do all the time, because it's going to be, it should be changing. It should be flexible with what the situation is, which is what we've seen the municipality be, right?
Yeah, but there's also, Wendy's on the call. There are provincial levels of government. There's also metro.
Yeah.
States. We get calls about when the power goes out. We get in a lot of trouble for the power going out. So we can't really do anything about that.
I see what you mean. Yes. Okay.
Yeah. Point though, in terms of how municipalities have jumped in and have done, we're in unprecedented times, and what municipalities have done which they haven't typically done. I think Bowen Island can be assured that other municipalities have done similar things in terms of meeting in a park with a beverage, so to speak. Bowen Bowen wouldn't be the first, and as we look at other municipalities and the regulations that they implement, we could be assured that we could likely do the same thing, and know that precedent has already been set by other municipalities during these unprecedented times.
Thank you, Kirsten. That's all for me. Rod, I think we're on tourism next.
Okay, great. Jody, do you want to give us an update on how things are going?
I want to echo Rod's comment, and thanks to Steph for being so solid through all this and keeping us informed and reporting back for us and everything. So I just want to echo that first of all. I appreciate all that you do, Steph. And when I was disappointed, I was excited the other day and then disappointed when I looked in further. As Allison mentioned, we had applied for one of those rural dividend grants, and when I looked at the list of who was awarded, we weren't. I was sad. Tourism Bowen Island, because a chunk of our revenue comes from our members, has obviously been also very hit hard by the fact that our members are hit hard. So that impacts us as well. And we will have to be looking for every possible way to try to continue on and supporting our members and doing what we can. We will be opening the visitor center. Well, first of all, phase 3 hasn't been formally announced, though they're hinting that it might be announced for this week. But I am noticing that people, just generally speaking, are moving around a lot more. I went into Vancouver last week for like a dentist appointment and that, and yeah, things are looking quite kind of normalized in many ways. And on my way back to the ferry terminal, noticed that the Nanaimo ferry and the Sunshine Coast ferry were loaded up with people looking like they were off for recreational pursuits with bikes and all sorts of things. So I am noticing, more people coming to Bowen, but I think people have been respecting it. Whenever I get inquiries, I'm still saying we're at, phase 2, please postpone coming at this time. But so we are going to be opening the visitor center in anticipation and getting ready to make sure that we can be there front line. And our role this year will be, in addition to our normal sort of destination management and hooking people up with restaurants and things like that, we will be also educating and encouraging COVID health protocols. So I see our role at the visitor center as frontline people, helping to reassure the local residents that we're doing what we can to make sure that people are following health protocols. I think that is short and sweet. If anybody has any questions, let me know.
Rod, may I comment on that? As most of you know, I'm out for several hours a day with my dog hiking. I come across many people coming off the ferry and hiking the trails, and I'm the only one with a mask. And I was wondering, Jody, if one of the things you can do at the visitor center is encourage people to not just social distance, but also to wear masks. It's not required, but I think it's a recommendation from the province and something you could reiterate when you're talking to, if people come in with questions.
We follow and will be supporting what the provincial health recommendations are. So that is the whatever it is, we will be upholding that. We have received the other thing, which I was actually on Facebook yesterday because people were going back and forth about this, BC Ferries is requesting that every passenger, doesn't matter which run, has a mask. So we will be updating our website. We will be need to know information before you come, but then if our staff can talk to people, we will be providing that information too.
Excellent.
So we have a small amount of funds from Destination BC to help COVID related. So we will have a few masks that we can hand out to people if they don't. But generally speaking, if you're walking the trails and you're outside in particular, I mean, Bowen is good that way, that people are coming a good chunk for the nature experience. So that's really healthy kind of COVID appropriate behavior to be outside, and you don't have to wear a mask if you're actually on the trail unless you're gonna run into somebody closer than 2 meters. So
I agree about the trails, but yesterday in the Cove, we had a fair amount of traffic. And again, I don't know how many were coming off the ferry, but there were no masks, and that was just in the Cove. So just something I'd like, it's a recommendation by province. And I think it's something that we can reinforce. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, we will absolutely be following that. And if a business, for instance, if somebody wants to go into a business, and if they let us know that they request people to wear a mask, we would certainly say that if that is their requirement. So absolutely, we'll do our best.
I wonder if Steph, from Emergency Operations Center perspective, that we could ask that I don't know if it's required, so maybe it's a volunteer thing, where that aspect of people's safety plans for their business is registered so that the tourist office could access that list. So I'm just wondering, like, as Jody said, if for instance, the general store says we request customers wear a mask, Jody could let people know that, but does she have to, does it have to be that everyone contacts Jody? or is there an opportunity for us to help facilitate more of a general list? Or you're muted again, Steph. We don't hear you. Yeah.
Just to let you know, we generally are, on any given year, we are interacting quite closely with businesses. We want to stay up to date so that we are giving accurate information. So we are kind of doing that anyway. But if the emergency response, if they want to do something, they could. But we are doing that interpersonal kind of connection with businesses anyway.
I was also.
Yeah, I'll leave that to Jody. I was just going to say I would be happy to do that if it's an engagement opportunity that Jody can take advantage of. I'll leave it to her. I just did want to add, things change so quickly. So run around at gathering data, which I'm happy to do, but then it changes. So
yeah,
I really believe it with Jody as far as that engagement opportunity.
I was going to.
If you need my support, Jody, I'm happy to help you.
So if I understand it correctly, everybody is supposed to have a business plan posted on their door.
Safety
So, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, just as a aside here for a moment, Kirsten has to leave for a few minutes, and as Steph pointed out, I guess we'll lose our quorum, but we're not actually making any votes or resolutions. We're just receiving information, I believe, for the rest of the meeting. Is that right, Steph?
Where's the agenda?
Yeah, I'm looking at the agenda. I don't see any.
Maybe you should just quickly ask if anybody has any questions on the information items, and then that'll be
Okay, well that's what I'll do. I mean, so we're just in the Tourism Bowen Island area. We have an Arts Council. We're going to talk about business engagement from the perspective of our meetings, but also some follow-up activities that could be happening in the next month or so. We're going to talk a little bit about the gift certificate program, which is part of the Rural Islands Economic Partnership, and the Welcome Back, and the Business Navigator program, and then we have other business. So unless there's something in other business that requires resolution or confirmation, I think we could continue. Does that make sense to you, Steph? Yeah. Okay. Good. So I guess you're okay from our perspective, Kirsten, and do what you need to do there.
Nice to see you, Kirsten.
Yeah. Okay. So
I think from your minutes perspective, Steph, that this will be sort of the meeting lost quorum, and then you'll just have notes after that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks.
okay. So are we complete then with tourism, Jody? Do you have anything else you want to touch on right now? No. Okay.
I have a quick question, and I'm sorry if Jody already mentioned it. I was looking up something else in relation to a question somebody had asked. Did you get any student grants?
Yes, we did get student grants.
Oh, good. Okay,
and
that's fine. I just wanted, I was under the impression they were hard to come by this year, so I just wanted to check.
Yeah, no, actually, I've got a little bit of connection with Patrick Wheeler's office, so they checked with me and stuff like that, which was nice. Yeah.
Thanks.
In that, actually, I'd be interested to know, Jody, because my understanding is that under the emergency supports, that where students and volunteering in particular, there's quite a bit more, like students can be paid to volunteer through emergency support programs this year. And I'm wondering if that's something potentially, especially for COVID information and awareness, that might be useful for Tourism Bowen.
Or even for the Muni.
Rod, I hadn't heard of that. I'd be interested in seeing the link for that. Like for our in regard to our student grant, we're probably good. But if there was a role, because I certainly met some students that I really liked, and it would be nice if they have an opportunity to make some money doing something. Yeah, like Alison said, if it's COVID related and all that kind of stuff.
Okay, I'll bring up that link afterwards, and
Okay.
I don't think I have my fingers to put it in the chat, but I'll send it to you instead.
Thank you.
Okay, so the Arts Council, Ed, do you want to take it over from there? We'll get you unmuted.
The first thing, we are the hearth, and I'd like that to be
Right.
boilerplate in all of our agenda items. So the big news, Jami spoke about the blessing of the sign yesterday, and I'm very anxious to see the video. But our really big news is on July 1st, we're going to reopen the gallery. It will be a real life opening. Staff have been informed and trained. Volunteer staff have been informed in their training in the COVID protocols. We actually have a new plexiglass personal protection around our desk, and we will be celebrating Gene Bradbury. It's sort of an artist party. It's 4 to 6:30 p.m. And for us, it's exciting. It's our first real step moving back to normal, whatever that means. Any thoughts, Jami? Okay, thank you.
So people can, you're saying you're having a gathering?
Yes, yes. And there will be social distancing guidelines. So yes, it is a party. It is people getting together. There will be limits number of people inside at any one time. I'm not sure, Jami, maybe you can talk to this. I don't know how is the specifics of enforcing it. Are we going to have social distancing police?
Yeah, you're the policeman, Edward.
Okay, board.
And can you be outside, or like how are you going to do it?
Yes, yes, inside and outside.
Yeah, we'll definitely be following all of the protocols to make sure that there's a lot of physical distancing going on, everyone in their own social bubbles. But we're trying to open and celebrate art as best we can. Doors wide open, and yeah, limiting how many people come in.
Are you limited to how many people can gather still? Or are we still at like the 50 or something?
50.
Or?
How are you going to deal with the 50 people? Social, because that's Bonnie Henry's. There can't be an event of more than 50 people.
Well, we'll limit how many people are in the gallery, probably 6 at a time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Great, thanks. That's super exciting to hear, and we're fortunate that it's July, and probably it'll be very nice to be outside the gallery, especially with all the new landscaping, and it's looking really great around that area.
Sorry, did you say July 1st? Yeah, okay, thanks. Okay,
well then our next is Business Engagement Working Group. And I just, you know, again, in context, I think nearly the entire focus of this committee for the last 3 months has been on business engagement through our relationship with the businesses and the Emergency Operations Center, and through our meetings and meetups, and through some of the programs and the business navigator that we'll talk about in a minute. What I wanted to do was just kind of sum up that we had 12 digital business meetups every Wednesday, and now we've moved to monthly. So we're decided that we're going to be, I believe it's the second Tuesday morning of the month, and we'll be sending out through Steph and our whole business list the announcements ahead of time again for the next one. But we just found that the numbers were dropping and people were getting busy with their businesses, and that it made sense, I think, to set a next date, but not to have them every week going forward here, especially entering into our summer and busy business season. One of the things that had been discussed through the organizing group was, how do we stay in touch with, or what meaningful activity might we have with businesses that affects the community, a business community as a whole, And the idea at this point, and it is just an idea at this point, is to look at engaging on a qualitative study on customer behavior in our businesses and in stores. And maybe it relates back to Ed's experience on the trail. So Ed is concerned about people not wearing masks on the trail, maybe being in fairly close proximity to each other, especially in the Cove area. And Ed is a pretty level-headed guy, but someone who is less level-headed perhaps might take issue with the tourist on the trail and give them a dressing down about the fact that they're not taking proper precautions. And there's an incident there that has an impact on our community, and I could foresee, and I think that it's reasonable to think that these incidents will happen over the course of the summer on BC ferries, getting on and off the ferries, in front of businesses or in businesses. And that will affect people's experience on Bowen Island. It affects the community, and potentially affects the business's viability, their ability to make money. So there would have to be a voluntary study, I think, and Chris Corrigan has designed studies like this before. He's interested in this study and has volunteered to help be a part of it. So if this committee was interested in following through with that, what I would like to do is maybe get one or two people to be a part of the advisory group and help take that information out to businesses and collect information from businesses. So I don't know if that's meaningful to anyone else in the group, but I'd like to hear anything you have to say about it at this point.
Rod, is this this qualitative research interview format, observational format? Has Chris spoken about that yet?
No, we haven't. We haven't really talked in detail about it at all. I had invited Chris to attend the meeting this morning, just so we might be able to have a quick discussion about that. But unfortunately, he's not able to attend.
I'd be willing to work with you too on that. Very much so. It's
okay.
Followed through the research we've been doing over the last 5 or 6 years.
Yeah.
Rod?
Yeah.
What is the purpose? Why do we want to observe that? Like,
well,
what do we do with the information, I guess, is what I'm saying.
I think there's a number of things that could be done with the information. I think to a certain degree, we have to look at our community first, of course, and what value would it be to our businesses? Well, I think perhaps, and again, with research, you don't know what the value is going to necessarily be until you see what comes out of it. But and that depends on design as well. But if one business is having an issue, that's one thing, and they might be able to find help from other businesses because of the shared information. If many businesses are having similar issues, then maybe there's something that the municipality needs to do in terms of assisting traffic flow or public education. If community members are being impacted, both mental health or physical health because of interactions that are happening in places of business, then I think, again, it's good that the municipality would know about that, and perhaps this committee. But then going beyond our community, I think, we have an opportunity, and we say this a lot on Bowen Island, I think with good reason, that we have an opportunity for leadership. I think other island communities in our Rural Island Economic Partnership would be interested in this kind of information, and I think ultimately it would speak to what Stephanie was talking about. They have their ears open. They want to hear about what's going on in the communities and how the province can help and what's needed. So I think that's all possibilities for what could come out of a study like that.
So that seems like a lot of work for volunteers. I mean, I know Chris might be interested. They've done, him and his colleague there have done some work in this area, or this type of study, right? They were looking, they're very interested in it, but I guess I'm kind of wondering, are we anticipating that we're going to be seeing a lot of this kind of interactions or anxiety or issues in the community? I guess for the amount of work that I think would go into this, are we saying we're anticipating that a lot of that will be happening, so we should document it understand it and see what we can do to address it.
I don't think it's just about anxiety. We're opening business into what is now being called the new normal. We're not going to go back to business as usual for a long time, if ever. I see this as almost a baseline study of opening up in a new way, facing new challenges, also maybe identifying some new opportunities, and just being a broad-based source of information, not broad-based, but a source of information to see where we start, what issues may be, and help us move forward. In technical terms,
how did
it's
this
called
information for like how long do you think? A month?
we would have to get together. I've not talked to anybody about this.
Yeah.
The design has not been formulated yet. It's the question is are there people who want to work on this? I would, Chris would. Chris and I have worked together on a number of research projects, and I think it would be valuable to go forward and at least look at a design and see what that would entail.
Okay, sounds good.
Can I, so just sort of, I'm still not understanding why it has to be done in person. You're gonna go and talk to the business owner, or you're gonna stand there and observe, or?
I have no idea. This is, I've heard this swimming around in the ether, and this is the first time I've actually spoken about it. I really am not in a position to say at the moment what the methodology would be. I'd like to talk to Chris. There's a number of ways to do it. You can, and I'm willing to help go forward with this as much as I am with my other responsibility with the Neighborhood Emergency Response Program. But I think it could be valuable as a baseline study.
I'm not concerned about gathering the information. I guess I'm just concerned about the time commitment. It takes, whether, so when you're looking at it, would you look at the pros and cons of just sending an email questionnaire to everybody to just, with the 2 or 3 questions and ask them to answer it, or a list of yes, no, have you had type of questions?
Maybe Alison, you can volunteer to work on the working group with it.
Yeah.
Here's how I would do it. I would say,
okay.
Yeah.
My other question was, having been a small business owner, and if people are distancing in their stores, you're not going to be wanting to be in there talking to the store owner when a customer wants to come in, which means doing it after hours on, either on the phone or something like that. I mean, maybe that's an easier way to, so. Anyhow.
Okay, so let me interject for a minute and say, let's not get into trying to think about what a study like this actually would look like, the design as that is said. I guess floating the idea, I mean, it sounds like there are a couple of people who would volunteer, and I think that's enough to say that we would be interested, at least myself, Ed, Chris, and his people. But the question is whether the committee even wants to entertain, being involved with something like this. And then I guess the next step would be, and I think if the committee does want to be involved or in it, or at least entertain the idea of something like this, then the study could be designed or roughed out, I guess, would be the next step, Ed. And then we might look at it again and understand better as a committee what it is. But at the same time, it'd be nice to know both from the province and from the Municipal Emergency Operations Center if they know of anything that's going on like this elsewhere in the province. And also, does this fit any criteria for funding in programs? I will take one more step and just say that we do have funding for the Community Economic Development Plan. We have put that on hiatus during COVID. Helen, of course, who was hired to complete the plan, her contract was terminated because she wasn't able to continue during COVID. We've had the opportunity now that we have a new CAO who will be responsible for the person who is going to complete that plan. As a committee, and council, we're going to have to see how that's going to happen. So there's quite a bit going on in that respect. There's also been talked about, so that's a person or time that this, I'm not saying that this project is necessarily part of that going forward, but it could potentially be part of that. And it might be interesting for us as a community creating an economic development plan to have information like this going forward. So there's a number of things, like everything is kind of up in the air. So what is the next step? And we've talked a lot about having a business association and creating more business. We're talking about business engagement here. How do we continue to engage with businesses at this uncertain time? And I think that this initiative is kind of, in my discussions, risen to the top. So I'll just
Rod, from a process perspective, we've lost quorum. So there can't be any committee decisions to launch a new project or go forward with something at this point. So
can we not have a working group though?
Well, we can't strike a working group, but if a few of you wanted to volunteer on your own and come back to the next meeting with a refined, but I mean, there's not enough of us here to know whether, you know, they want to advance the project or not.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point. And maybe it's not important at this point. This is, as Ed has said, this is the first time we've really been discussing it. So we've taken our 10 minutes, we've discussed it. We can maybe leave it there for the moment. And Jody, you have something to say.
And so does Steph.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I must have blanked out at some point. Rod, when you were explaining, can you give me the sort of elevator pitch of what this study would be? I see that on the agenda it says qualitative study on customer in-store behavior, but can you just redefine that again for me, because I've lost.
Well, as an example, let's not say a store. Let's say at the visitor center. So let's say that at the visitor center you find that a number of times in a day you get too many people trying to crowd into the visitor center, and you have difficulty with managing the traffic flow in the visitor center. And so this creates stress for the people who are operating the visitor center, and visitors aren't being served. So a study like this potentially, and I'm not saying how, but could be designed so that you keep a record of that. It happened 6 times today, or this event happened, or maybe the study seeks to discern what events actually are causing stress, and then seeks to define those events. Again, this is not my area of expertise, designing studies and quantitative, measuring consumer behavior, but that is essentially what we're talking about is how do we actually, so we say that the businesses are very stressed out by having too many visitors, or do we say we have a study and it tells us this, this is what the study is going to do.
And I think, Jody, what I'm understanding better now too is that we have been talking about how we're going to continue to respond. I mean, things are going to change. They're going to keep changing. They're going to keep changing, right, as we go along. So I think this is one more piece of information that would be really useful to have, that as Edward said, can identify challenges that we might be able to help with, or opportunities, in different ways of doing things. So I do think it would be quite valuable, actually.
Okay, thanks for that. I don't think it's specific to Bowen. I don't think it's specific to visitors. I think it is about making sure that everybody understands the protocol, like a business should have a sign on the door, one entry, one at a time. It's really clear. I mean, I think I understand, maybe you want to focus on what specific things are challenges for Bowen, but I wouldn't, I don't think specific to Bowen. And like I was in Vancouver the other day, I went to, certain things, and even though they had signs on the door, people still weren't reading them. So it's consumer behavior anywhere, or how do you get people to change their behavior? So I don't know, I'm a little bit lost, but I can understand that it would be good to survey what are Bowen specific challenges, I guess.
Yeah, I think that's the point. You know what it reminds me of? When we did our business outreach to retail sector, remember we were doing the either breakfast meetings or luncheon meetings in person back in the day. One of the things that came out of that was a realization that there had been quite a bit of shoplifting happening in the Cove, that the retailers were finding that there were more shoplifters than they were used to, or at least it just wasn't that widely known. And so with that information, we were able to contact the RCMP and just get a soft but more, commitment to being a little bit more present, a little bit more walking about the Cove, a little bit more, you know what I mean? So something was able to come out of it just with that bit of information that came from that business community we didn't know about.
Yeah, that's a good example of one. Okay, so Steph, you've been waiting to say something too.
Just, I think the questions when they're framed as, just a sec, honey, how many people are coming in? Are you having a hard time managing that? Those are very caring questions that putting myself in the shoes of a business owner, I would probably be happy to receive that question. I'm just concerned about over-engaging or engagement fatigue right now. When the Zoom meetings have started to move to a monthly model, people have been engaging, and now they're busy getting their businesses going. I send a lot of emails. There have been surveys. There's a lot of engagement about the gift certificate program. Getting people to send photos, like where help and support becomes harassment. It's just, to use a harsh word, that's my own feeling. That's just to be mindful of that. I think it's a good idea, but I'm just very careful of where engagement becomes too much. For when they just
That's a good point, Steph. Although I can see that by the time they figure out what they're going to do and get around to doing it,
yeah,
it's not going to be me. It's probably going to be another month, 6 weeks. You know what I mean? Like, so by that point, we won't have had so many digital, meetups anymore. And I think it'll be a little, I get the point though.
Yeah. Okay, well, I think at this point then, as Allison's pointed out, there's nothing for us to decide on. I think Ed and myself and Chris, and if anyone else is interested in learning about what they suggest because they're more the people who have the experience in designing a study like this, and we'll bring it back to our next meeting as to what that looks like. So moving on to the next thing, which is the gift certificate program. It's been launched, as you probably all well know, the islandcomeback.ca. I don't know off the top of my head. I'll put you on the spot for a second here, Jami. Do you know about the gift certificate program in your capacity with Hearth?
I've been listening to it.
Yeah. Okay.
But I haven't. Really...
Okay. So I didn't think so, because I don't think Hearth is registered as an organization. But I just, as an example, wanted to let you know that Hearth actually could register for free. There's a e-commerce platform that's integrated, and that would be a little bit more complicated, I guess, because of the not-for-profit status. You'd have to have 2 signers, for instance, to set up your online account with Stripe and so on. But it would allow people to buy, as an example, gift certificates to be used at Hearth. And so people could buy them. It's an e-commerce platform, so they could buy them from anywhere. The user addresses it to someone by an email. Whoever's the recipient of the gift certificate, whether it's themselves or someone else, gets an email with a code and a gift certificate, which they have on their phone, and they can bring into the Hearth, as an example, and use that to purchase something. And so the notion, as you go through it, is that it's supporting our distinct rural island communities, and it really is designed to speak to people who are fans of our community. So locals, perhaps people who have second homes here, and friends and family, and people who love to visit the our different rural islands, and so who value our rural culture and character of our communities. There have been, I don't have the list in front of me, but I think there are close to 30 Bowen businesses registered now. That's the largest registration for any of the islands except for Salt Spring, which I think has 55. So population proportion wise, we're about the same uptake on Bowen, which is great. And there are, I don't have the stat in front of me, but we can circulate them. There are, out of the 18 islands that are part of the Rural Island Economic Partnership, I think there's about 10 who are now participating in the program. What's really exciting and interesting is it's moving into its next stage. So it's been launched. There are people, businesses represented on different islands. Consumers can and have been going in and purchasing gift certificates for those local stores. Then there's the next stage is further sponsorships, regional type activities, and what it's going to do next and how it's going to evolve. And those things are not done and they're not decided. But I'll just give you the picture of the vision right now. And that is that this can become more of an e-commerce platform for our rural island communities. And so it serves the whole community and all the businesses and organizations within it. And that it's delivered with in differentiating itself from Buy Local BC and some of the province-wide programs. It is specifically focused on our rural island communities and tailored to them. So right now there's a possibility, and it's being discussed, that there can be some sponsorship to the site, which could bring in more revenue, which could then drive this next stage of development and into a larger e-commerce platform that small businesses would be able to benefit from. But in the immediate term, Steph, maybe you can speak to this because you had some discussions with our Buy Local BC contacts who we as a community pay into Buy Local BC for some of the marketing and communications. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, I was just thrilled. So I followed up with Buy Local BC. They have a gift certificate program. So I just thought, oh my God, now we're going to do another one. Speaking of engagement fatigue, I don't want to go around getting them to register for a second one. This is going to be awkward. And then I spoke to Amy Robinson and shared those feelings. And she said, why don't we just link you guys over? So we're going to have our own page on Local BC. Vaune City, that's the one you were talking about, Vaune, the Vaune City Local BC initiative. And they're just going to link it over to the Rural Islands one. Done. So we're team. No,
nice.
Excellent. And I thought that was super generous of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in addition to that, Steph, I think that perhaps through your efforts, that's going to be system-wide. So all of the islands are going to have that linked over.
Okay.
Wow. Awesome. Way to go, Steph.
Thanks. I shared a couple days ago. I was like, where is this link? I can't find it. She's working on it. She's having some health problems. So
yeah.
Well, because, they are going to be able to advertise that so much more, right? So that's awesome. Everybody doesn't have to go through the whole process, and it still gets that that marketing push for them, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was they were a little irritated because they thought they want a BC thing. And then it's like, oh, we're the islands, and oh, we're this, we're that. And they wanted BC, but so maybe they've come to that conclusion. Can't beat them, join them. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's good, and I think it's perfectly in the spirit of what we're all trying to do at this time. Sorry, I'm thinking two thoughts here. So moving forward, there's an opportunity for more businesses to register. It is free. It is fairly short. We sent out an email to businesses, sort of a blast email, with a note letting them know that it's happening again and welcoming them. I don't know if you have any sense of whether we had any uptake from that, but we also advertised in this week's Undercurrent the gift certificate program.
Mm-hmm. I think it might be a back end issue. Like I was going to go and talk to people individually, like Morgan's, for example. But I mean, they've just got a new computer system for their staff, young staff. And then, so there's now a new administrative piece to this that they'd have to do all that training. I'm speculating just from conversations I've had with them, actually, but so, yeah, just because
I think to a certain degree, the program does serve very smaller businesses, like the real mom and pop shop people, which I think is fine at this point, in the sense that, yeah, you're right. When you have more staff and more administration, there's more to integrate something like this into your business flow. So we'll see as things go along. We'll get a real sense of how many people use it and what it. We'll also be getting reports on analytics, like how many people are coming to the sites and looking at it and looking at the businesses in Bowen Island page in particular, and that's through Google Site Analytics. And we will also be, of course, given the overall view stats of how much commerce is going through the site. So how many dollars are being spent in the community and how that's looking. So it'll be very measurable as we go forward, what the results are to this program.
Can I just ask you a quick question?
Yeah.
Steph, I'm just wondering if you're getting like people, like I was sort of thinking if I'm a business and I get a certificate and someone buys something from me, maybe my gift certificate is for $50 and I buy a $25 item. Are the businesses asking you like, how do I deal with, you know, that admin side of like, okay, they still have a credit somehow. Does the system even address that? I guess not. Like that would be a bit like from the business side, they would have to figure out how they track that, I guess, eh?
When we send the registration information, there's a support line at the rural partnership, and so they're sending their questions to them. I don't know.
Okay, so you've not heard any like people saying, I don't know how to deal with it from the admin side on mine, so I'm not doing it. No, okay.
Yeah, okay, so and any other questions of that? Maybe Vaune, do you want to talk about the Business Navigator pilot and where we're at with that?
Sure. Okay, so we did a 1-month pilot where both Rod and I were, or either one of us were available for one-on-one consultations with businesses trying to navigate the financial resources that are out there. So that's happened. We had about a dozen different businesses contact us, representing probably about 50-ish other, let's say, self-employed people that these, you know, it might be a main business that has subcontractors or, you know, is a host business for other business people to go through. So it actually had the numbers of calls were like it's about a dozen, but it represented a lot of businesses or business people on the island. So that was really interesting. We do feel like we were able to help them. A lot of people gave, you know, just anecdotally, feedback was, yes, okay, this, I didn't know that was great. A couple of them were actually turned out to be people who needed more of a just social assistance. And so it wasn't really what the program was for, but we helped them anyways. So we're now at the point where we'd like to decide what our recommendations are about going forward and what else is needed. So we've put, Steph is helping us put together a survey. Should be going out shortly to all of the participants and get some feedback on what they thought about the program, but also what more they would like to see going forward. And then we will make our final recommendation to the Community Foundation who funded the project, because they do have more funds available. So we'll make a recommendation on what we think we'd like to see going forward, if anything. So for now, I'm still going to be taking calls. If we're just going to sort of do a bridge thing in the interim, and I'm going to just keep taking the calls if there are any. And in the next little while, we'll have more firm recommendations about what we want to do from there.
Great. Thanks, Vaune. You know, it was rewarding to be part of the conversations that we had, the ones that I was part of, as well as I did get the sense that people really were grateful to have someone to reach out to, someone who knew about their local Bowen community and what their business was. And we did refer people to Small Business BC and other programs that are available. The Canadian Chamber of Commerce has Resiliency. There's a hotline that was opened. I didn't get a good sense of whether people went that extra step or not, quite honestly. But it's in the larger context. It did seem that there was having a community-based program was meaningful to people. So I think that's an interesting finding.
And that's some of the feedback we're asking them for, is whether they actually did act on the recommendations and then were they successful. So that's going to be really interesting to know. And then one other point I wanted to make was that we were looking at the sectors it represented, and there was such a wide variety. So it was retail, it was tourism, it was health and wellness, it was sole proprietors, and it was restaurant. So it really show that there was a, you know, pretty wide ranging need in the community.
Yeah. Great. And just so everyone was clear about that, that was primarily with support from the Community Foundation's Resiliency Fund. And we understand that fund is still operational. It still is funded, and that they are looking at projects and will continue to look at projects in the community where there isn't funding available in other respects to help the community at large get through the difficult time. So does anyone else have any questions about Business Navigators? Because we're basically at the end, and I think we should wrap up if we don't have anything else. Okay. Well, it's great to see you all, and I know Kirsten was going to join us again, but I think that's probably about it. Jody, did you just come back, or you just came onto my screen, or were you here the whole time?
No, I've been here the whole time. Sometimes I
Good.
walk off to use the washroom or something. So
No, it's your window came back onto my screen, so I didn't know if you actually were with us. Okay, I was just saying we're going to close up, so let's do that.
I'd like to add one little piece of information.
Mm-hmm.
Tomorrow evening, I believe it's 6 or 6:30. The link is on. Pardon?
I think it's 6.
Okay, the link is on the municipal webpage. The evacuation plan for the island is going to be presented to the public. I really suggest that as many people watch this as possible. It will have significant, I think there's significant information about what we might do in an evacuation. I've seen the plan. It's good work. And so.
And
okay.
what did you say? Where's the information of that available?
On the municipal Muni page.
Okay.
On the home page, go to the calendar, click on the 23rd, and the details come up.
Yes.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. Good. Okay. Well, Jody, do you want to say something?
Oh, something. Just sorry, additional business. Just because I had a little bit of back and forth with staff, and I hate to go to it again, but the whole washroom thing, and what happened was through Destination BC, I was forwarded a link to grants, accessible grants, and through the federal government. And it seemed like a really good opportunity to me. So I reached out to staff and said, look, this could be a way to get a public washroom in the Snug Cove area because the municipality is not providing any formal washrooms. And it would be a good capital project and stuff. And staff gave me a little bit of feedback on what to do. And I followed up with an email to Patrick, and I haven't heard a response. I don't think I will, even though I think this is a good opportunity for the municipality as the capital thing. I don't think it's in my role in Tourism Bowen Island, except for maybe to assist with it. And I haven't got a response. There's a really tight turnaround. So Steph had said that maybe bring it up at the Community Economic Development Committee meeting. And I'm sorry, it just popped in my head. So I just want to bring it up that I really do, just from my position in tourism and being in the Snow Cove area, really think the municipality should be providing better public washroom facilities. And yeah, so this is, I guess I just want it on the record that. Are
you saying that you think the municipality should be applying for that grant?
Well, I think it's an, yeah. I think they should as an opportunity. This one is an accessibility grant, but for instance, I had a conversation with Colleen at the Caring Circle, because she had been looking through her work with Lighthouse. They were saying, well, there's no washroom facility for homeless people. So there's this opportunity, but there's kind of, it doesn't seem anybody kind of, you know, willing to put in the effort or or have the time or ability. And it is short notice now for this grant. But it just seems to me that that kind of a thing would, one, I think there should be a better washroom facility, public washroom facility in Snow Cove. And I think that should be a capital project of the municipality. And just trying to figure out opportunities and way to get that funded and stuff. And this grant came up. So sorry, I'm just kind of, it just popped in my head that I forgot to bring that up.
Steph's had her hand up. Unmute yourself.
Okay, yeah. Okay. So the grant that Jody highlighted, $100,000, super exciting, went to the Public Works Department, and they're crying blood, like from the capital projects they're working on now. They've got 4: the multi-use path, the Cove Bay Water Treatment Plant, Community Center, and Fire Hall. These are all huge projects that one person is taking on, who's, yeah. So, but the good news is that Patrick comes from Metro, and he's keenly aware of the need for quality washroom facilities in parks. He doesn't like porta potties. He thinks those are great. So you got a fan for that, but he's bleeding from the eyes. So I've been hounding him, and his administrative assistant. He was going to bring it up with the CAO on Thursday, but they had a meeting to discuss capital projects. They didn't get to it. They were going to have that was earlier last week. Then there was one on Thursday. They didn't get to it again. I spoke to the CAO this morning to say this meeting was coming. It might come up. Can I have an update? Yay, nay, maybe. I need something to come back with. No pressure. And he says, this is a great idea, but of course, yes, who executes $100,000? There's a lot of staff, etc. B, we couldn't, 2 meetings, we couldn't even get to it. Like, we couldn't even get to discussing it. We couldn't even get halfway through what we already have, let alone getting to it. So that's your update. That's what I'm report back, is they want to, like the Director of Engineering has brought it to the CAO and the CFO to discuss. They can't even get to the discussion, let alone the execution of the grant. So it's not over yet. The administrative assistant seems to be fairly keen, Rachel. She's saying it's not a difficult grant. We don't need drawings. We don't need anything, and we don't have to spend it this year. It can be next year. That's where we're at. Yeah,
so can I ask, did Metro put porta potties at the entrance down by the Seaside Cottage this year?
Yes, you and Metro did that together.
Okay, so I mean, they've got the prime piece of land, and I remember them talking about the old building being turned into proper washrooms, but we've put in 2 washrooms that aren't connected to sewer or anything. The ones out in, didn't we put one out at Cape Roger Curtis and one somewhere else that Bonnie put in through the parks? I was just thinking, can you ask her how much those cost? And what's the deadline for the grant, Jody?
Report from last year.
Sorry, that grant was, I think it was like July, I want to say
13th.
13th.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
I saw it and sent it on too. So, okay. All right.
The other thing with that grant, if you delve into, you know, the different layers, it does give very specific funding for an accessible toilet, and it gives all the dimensions and all that kind of the requirements that would need. So for instance, let's just say it's 20,000 that they will allow for an accessible toilet, and it's 15,000 for an accessible shower. Those are two things that they have kind of standard fees. But then my question was, on top of that, how much for the, like, hooking up to the sewer and all that, those kind of things would also need to be put in the grant application or figured out. How much can we get for that? How much can we get for the fact that Bowen Island is not in an urban center, so there's more expensive costs, because they do mention that. So there's sort of standard rates that they will fund for certain things, but then it does say in the grant that there can be, which I'm hoping would be on top of that, to meet the actual site-specific requirements of fulfilling that grant, or those things.
Well, I'm just wondering if we can get a Metro to apply for the grant and put it on the corner down by the seaside cottages.
So what would that be then? Should we ask one of the council liaisons for that?
Well, yeah, I sent the grant application forms on to them already, so because I saw that grant.
Do you want me to Tester David?
Or Allison, can you write them and say, can you please do this? We really want it.
Yeah, no, let me talk to Maureen, because she's on the Metro Parks Committee. And yeah.
So one thing about that was, I didn't talk to Metro. I was thinking, okay, where would be a good position for this washroom? I think it should actually be on some Metro land right by the visitor center, just in the sense that, and this is my thing from tourism, is that visitor centers, there's a high percentage of people that go specifically to visitor centers to use the washroom. It's a very common facility that is normally provided. And so that's where this grant, that's where my mind went immediately. Could it be a joint thing between Metro and the Muni or something? Perhaps, yeah. Yeah, it just seemed like a really good opportunity to help kind of cross off a few things at the same time. Or in other words, okay. I don't want to see this washroom going where the seaside cottage is, preferably not, because that's for some people that have accessibility issues. That's not a good location.
I'm not saying it's right by the seaside, but that area, and it's right by, there's a sidewalk and everything there now. So
exactly, yeah.
And it's easier, you know, so yeah.
Okay, great. Well, that would be super, Allison, if you mention that to our Metro reps. I guess that's what we can do at this point.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Okay, well, thanks everyone for being with us, and look forward to seeing you next meeting, July 27th. And then I'm assuming we don't have an August meeting scheduled, correct, Steph? Yeah. And in the meantime, we'll have some work going on in the background here.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay,
Great.
Thanks everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Take care.
Rod, are you coming back out this way?
Am I coming? No, not today.